Okay, what is one thing your ex did or a memory you have of them that will haunt you for the rest of your life? It doesn't have to be something that would be scary to everybody, but something that stuck with you. I'll go first. A few days after my therapist told me that I needed to leave because he was going to kill me one day, I told him about it so that he would realize how scary he was and hopefully change. He didn't say, oh, babe, I would never do that to you, or, deny it in any sort of way. He said, how do I fix that? As in, how does he fix the urge to want to kill me? So that fucked me up pretty bad. I still think about that pretty often. So I want somebody to one-up me. Tell me your story. Duet this or comment something terrible, or it doesn't even have to be the worst thing that ever happened, but just something that fucked you up too. So I want to hear it. Let's bond. Okay, what is one thing your ex did or a memory you have of them that will haunt you for the rest of your life? It doesn't have.
So my psychologically abusive ex told me one thing near the end of our relationship that just solidified why we shouldn't be together. No, it wasn't the emotional abuse that made me leave. I didn't find that out until years later. It was something he said when we were in the last few months of our relationship. I asked him why we had not been intimate lately. And he told me it's not because he wasn't in the mood, it was because he wasn't in the mood to do it with me. His reason why he wasn't in the mood to do it with me was because of months earlier when he was so depressed he couldn't get out of bed, and I took care of him for an entire week, taking time off of work, school, everything to take care of him for that entire week where he couldn't get out of bed. He realized that I would still want to be with him even if he was in his most disgusting state, and he hated me for that. I loved him unconditionally, and he hated me for it.
Okay, so I was in a toxic relationship, and I knew it was toxic, but I didn't know it would turn scary until this one night. Story time. So my boyfriend lived in the middle of nowhere, Canada, in a cabin in the woods, which should have been my first red flag, but it wasn't. So I was staying with him in May, and one night he wanted to go to bed, and I wanted to stay on the couch and watch TV. So he goes to his room, and then 20 minutes later, I hear him yelling and throwing things around in his room. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? When I saw him, it was the weirdest look in his eyes. It was like my boyfriend was gone and he was possessed by this angry monster guy. He was like, why don't you want to come to bed with me? Why don't you care about me? You're so cold all the time. You don't even love me. And I was like, what? I really had no idea what I had done that triggered this, because he did have anger issues and he would get mad at me a lot, but usually I could figure out why he was mad, and this time I was shocked. So I was like, I don't know, what's wrong though? And he picks up my suitcase and he throws it across the room, and he's like, it's just you're so cold, you're gonna move to LA and never talk to me again. So it was around 1 a.m. at this point, and he was picking up my suitcase and pushing it around the room and saying that he wanted to take me to the airport and drop me off there because I was gonna leave him anyway. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's totally fine. Please take me to the airport. And at that point, I knew being in a public place was safer than being alone in this cabin with him. So I picked up whatever I saw that I could find of my clothes that he had thrown, put them in my suitcase, and then I let him put me in his car. And then he starts, oh my God, it was the middle of the night, and he couldn't see anything on the road, and he was speeding and swerving around in the lanes and playing the weirdest sad music and crying and yelling while he was driving. So at this point, I didn't know if I was gonna make it. I didn't know what he wanted to do in the car, because he was acting so irrational. So I decided to text my roommate, and I told her his car info and the license plate and where I was. And I grabbed the handle, and I was I guess I looked too scared, and he saw me texting my roommate, and he was like, oh my God, you're telling your friends that I'm abusive, aren't you? You're gonna tell them I'm abusive. And I was like, no, I'm not. I promise, I won't tell anyone. I won't tell my family, I won't tell anyone. And then he does a huge U-turn. So he does a U-turn in the middle of the road, and he takes me back to his house, and he told me to get in his room and stay in his bed. That way I couldn't tell my family that he left me at the airport or something. And that was the most terrifying night of my entire, I literally stared at the ceiling the entire time because I heard him pacing outside of his door. And I locked it, but I didn't know if he was gonna come in at any moment and what he was gonna do to me. This might be TMI, but I had to pee really bad, and I couldn't use the bathroom though because he was outside of his door and I was scared of him. So I held it all night long and I didn't sleep, and then in the morning I had a UTI and he had to take me to the doctor, and he said he loved me enough to make sure that my health was okay, even though I was so cold to him. So yeah.
My ex had something to say on a phone call. And I want to make one thing very clear. You're about to hear my abuser, see what my abuser was capable of, and see what I hid from everybody in my life. Big trigger warning. He's worried that our oldest read an email with him abusing me. She snatched it from me. This was like back in April during her birthday when I had to basically uninvite him because he was acting like a psycho. He's worried because she read that email because he doesn't want her to know that he's continuing to abuse me. I'm not worried if she reads an email, sneaks around, goes through my phone to see what he's actually saying, because she does do that. I'm worried because I want to heal her from this. My daughter's not stupid. When I come home and I'm upset or my energy's off, she knows. She knows why. So sometimes she does get sneaky and she'll go through my phone, snatch my phone when I'm driving. She wants to protect her mother as she always has, which sucks that she was ever in that position. I'm not worried if she sees these videos one day of me talking about her father. I'm not worried that there's people out there saying that I'm faking it. You don't live in my real life and get to watch the breakdowns I have processing all of this. But my ex is no longer going to try to make me look any type of way. I'm ready to go at it, and I'm not gonna let this man scare me or ruin my life any further with his demands. If he wants to continue to mentally abuse me, I'm going to continue to expose that abuse. This man is a monster and needs to be behind bars. And that's exactly what I'm going to start going for now.
And what do? You let her read private conversations and try to make it out to where I'm like some sort of bad guy so that you can film it and put it on TikTok.
I don't.
And really, it's disgusting.
The only time I allow
So you have
her...
culpability in her feeling that way.
The only
because she shouldn't be exposed to it.
The only time that she has asked about the conversations were the ones involving her birthday. And she snatched my phone from my hand.
You have culpability in her feeling that way.
Okay. So do you.
You're an adult. You're an adult.
So
You're an
do
adult.
you.
You have control.
And,
you have control over your phone and what's on it and who sees it. You're an adult.
Ryan.
And if you want me to believe that if you want me to believe that a 13-year-old snatched your phone and you just let her do it,
you are more than welcome to ask her.
She
will 100% confirm that she is the one while I was driving who took my phone and started reading the emails.
So what's that got to do with now? What's that got to do with her attitude over here now?
Because
her being mad about me trying to get her to try on some pants. Her being mad that I tried to...
Okay. Have a great day. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Move.
If you really love me,
he gaslit me to believing that he loved me, and he lied to me over and over again that I was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen in his whole life. And at that point in my life, like, I had put on quite a significant amount of weight, and he made me feel really comfortable in that space, that I was enough and that I was worthy and that he loved that fact about me. And when I found out behind my back that he would cheat on me with girls that were the complete opposite to the way I looked, and he would watch porn of women that were the complete opposite of the way I was, and he was on dating sites matching with women who were the complete opposite, I just felt so embarrassed. And this person was reaffirming to me that it's so fine and, like, I love you and you're beautiful, but sleeping with people behind my back.
Wow.
And just when I found that out, I was just like, I will never let myself go through that again.
Yeah,
and
you blamed yourself.
Absolutely. And as a protective mechanism, I have never allowed myself to get there again. It's the level of shame that I experienced throughout that process. I don't ever want to bear it again. And that's so sad because I rob myself of the opportunity to enjoy my life a lot of the time because I'm in fear that this is going to repeat and this thing's going to happen again.
Get ready with me while I tell y'all some of the crazy, unnecessary, and just out-of-pocket shit my ex used to do when we was together. One day, I think we had gotten into it. We had went out to dinner with my family, and we low-key got into it. And when we got back to my house, he sat outside in the car for like 15 minutes talking on the phone. Or talking on the phone. And so of course I went outside to check on him, and he tells me that he just found out his mom has cancer. Me, I'm like, oh my god, like, is she okay? Like, how is she feeling? Is she gonna get treatment? He's like, I don't know. She's saying she don't want to get treatment. And I was like, okay, well, I hope, you know, she does end up getting treatment. I was like, what kind of cancer is it? He was like, oh, I'm not too sure. I was like, well, doesn't she know? He was like, he couldn't even tell me. He just say he told me that pretty early on in our relationship, and I didn't hear a thing about it ever again. Like, it's almost like the cancer just went poof. He also lied about opening up a credit card with my social security number. I just knew it was him. I knew it was him. I called the credit card company. I did some investigating. They were able to give me the phone number and the address on the account, and it was his. But he continued to deny. I mean, deny. And so I was just like, okay, this is crazy. The thing is, the credit card was used. That's how I found out it was even opened. It was used. $400 some was charged to it. Here's where I'm confused. His address was the one on the account, so they mailed the credit card to him, to his house. It was obviously taken out of the mailbox, opened, and used. So who else would have done that? Not to even mention, you need a code to get into his complex, and you need a key, which every apartment has their own key to the mailbox. So a random person couldn't just get in the mailbox and take this one piece of mail with a credit card in it. Anyways, he denied, and honestly, I just let it go. I couldn't do it no more. I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I ended up like getting with the credit card company, got it taken off my account. My credit went back up, things was good. There was another time where he made a fake Instagram page pretending to be this guy I used to like mess with, and pretty much was DMing me, trying to like set me up. These DMs were saying things like, I miss you, I want to take you out, I want to see you, like, let me take you shopping, things like that. And a part of me was like, yeah, something about this don't seem right, because the guy that he was pretending to be would not have been DMing me like saying shit like that. So fast forward, I pretty much accused him of being the person in my DMs, and he was swearing up and down it was not him. He even took it so far as to put that on his dead brother's grave. He was like, on my dead brother, that is not me in your DMs. Spoiler alert, it was him. I confirmed it. How I confirmed it is a whole nother story, but just to let y'all know, if it's something I want to find out, if it's something I want to know, I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna figure it out. And I did. A more recent thing, so after we broke up, of course he didn't take it very well. You know, I didn't expect him to take it any other way, but weird things started to happen at my job. My manager pulls me into her office one day, and she tells me, hey, so we got a phone call pretty much from an FBI agent saying that you are involved in some type of FBI investigation. I was like, no, I go to work, I go home. I'm not involved in no FBI, nothing. I don't know nobody. You know, my managers, they real cool. They was like, yeah, you know, something about it didn't sound right, but I just, you know, we just wanted to give you a heads up. First thing that comes to mind, it's my ex. The fake phone calls, calling my job's office at 4 a.m, just all this weird shit. It just sounded way too familiar. And my dad and my ex were pretty cool, so my dad gave him a call and was like, look, I don't know if you got anything to do with what's going on at my daughter's job, but if you do, I suggest you stop. And what do you know? After my dad had that phone call with him, the phone call stopped. No more FBI investigation. Honestly, I feel like I need to make a part 2, like telling y'all about these scenarios, because this is just crazy, everything I dealt with, but I'm just glad it's over.
Story time of how my ex-fiance ghosted me a couple weeks before our wedding. So long story short to this, my ex-fiance had gone back home for work, and as I'm here planning things out, making sure everything is in order for us to go and get married, we're on the phone every single day talking about how much we love each other. We're talking about how our life is going to be. We're talking about how we've overcome so much in this relationship, how we've made it to the other side. Now, me and my ex-fiance did not live together, and when him and I first started dating, he would always ask me, do you want me to come home to you every day? Like every time he would ask me that question, I would get chills and I would just be like, of course I want you to come home to me every day. And he would always have the biggest smile on his face. The day before he actually goes, we're on the phone and we're talking about how much we love each other once again and how we can't wait to be married. He's telling me how he can't wait to make me his wife. He asked me that question again. He did it more so like with longing in his eyes. I can't explain it. I look at him and I'm like, of course I can't wait to marry you. You know what I mean? Like, this is someone who I'm like, I am the luckiest girl. I have met someone that truly cherishes me. I have met someone that cares about me. He provides for me. He does what he says he's going to do. He's consistent. Sure, we've had some hiccups, what couples don't. After, I tell him how, of course, I'm excited. He has, again, the biggest smile on his face, and he looks at me. He's like, you're such an amazing woman, and I cannot wait for you to be my wife. I remember we get off the phone. He's like, okay, babe, I'm going to call you later. We'll talk. So the next day, I hadn't heard from him. Day goes by. I call him. I can't reach him, but I'm really not freaking out here. And then the next day comes, and then the day after that comes, and a week goes by. And please don't think I didn't do my due diligence in trying to reach him and call other people, because I definitely did. But after that, all of my frantic searching to no avail, and that's pretty much the story of how my ex-fiance ghosted me.
This is how I found out my ex had an OnlyFans account, by recognizing his dog's butt. We were already broken up at this point, but I was just minding my little business, scrolling on the Bird app like I used to do way back in the day, and a picture pops up that was retweeted by this girl I knew, and it's a dog butt. And I'm like, if you're a dog mom, if you've ever taken care of dogs, you know dog butts. And I'm like, that's the dog butt I took care of for 3 years. So let me investigate. Curiosity do be killing the cat. So let me go investigate. Yes, I was right. I was right. That was the dog butt I took care of for 3 years. After confirming that, yes, that was the dog I took care of. How did this pop up on my page? Because I had this man blocked on everything possible. No contact order even. How did this pop up on my page? Oh, he has an alias. He has an alias on the Bird app for posting his OnlyFans content. And judging from the dates that he was posting on that Twitter page, it was happening while we were still together. Yeah. If he's giving bare minimum to you, he's giving maximal effort elsewhere. Run.
When I was in my toxic relationship, me and my ex would always make up and break up, make up and break up. And I realized when we weren't together, I was more at peace with my life. But anytime he would come back into my life, I would have so many panic attacks, so many mental breakdowns. I was constantly angry and I was constantly in tears. And I could never pinpoint the cause of why I was feeling like this. Now that I'm not in the relationship, I realized that I was never truly happy. I was just extremely attached.
The most toxic thing my high school boyfriend did that I will never be able to forgive him for, and there were many toxic things that happened in that relationship. We were like, you put two people together and bring out the worst of each other, that was us. But the one thing I will never be able to forgive him for was one day he decided he was in a silly, goofy mood, and that he, every single time I tried to yawn, was going to ruin my yawn, and was not going to let me, complete the yawn. So it would start, and then he would do something really funny, or he would, stick his finger in my mouth. And this happened the entire day. So now, we're probably 8 years later at this point. If I start yawning, 90% of the time, I think about how there was a time where I couldn't finish my yawn, and then my body just stops yawning, and I cannot complete said yawn. It is the most annoying thing on the planet. I've tried to pop my ear. It's been 24 hours almost, and I can't freaking yawn. Did he know that he was gonna haunt me all these years later? Like, I literally am so annoyed at him.
What's a fucked up thing that your ex did to you?
Back in 2017, my father had a heart attack and went into a coma, right? And I was just completely out of it, and this happened on a Friday. And I was dating somebody who was incredibly beautiful, as guys call him a baddie, but incredibly self-centered and toxic, but I looked past those attributes because I was just so enamored with her looks, like an idiot. Anyway, we were dating for a few months, and my dad had this heart attack, and that Friday, we had plans to go somewhere. But obviously I wasn't in the right mindset. And I call her and I go, look, I know we have plans to do this and that. You're looking forward to it, but my dad's in a coma and I'm in a really bad space right now. And more than anything, I just want to go home and rest because I got to be here in the morning, but I really need my woman with me. Can you be here at the house? Because I just need you right now. No, what do you mean? No, you know what? This is family business. This is a little too much drama for a Friday. What about me? What about me? You know, I've had a hard week at work. I'm stressed too. I got problems of my own that I don't go bitching and complaining about with you. No, I'm going to go to this bar and then maybe I'll go to your place afterwards. Is that fine? I said whatever. I hung up the phone and my dad recovers the next few days. He wakes up, but I notice that she's slowly distancing herself from me and I'm asking her what's wrong. She keeps saying that, I don't know, I just need my space. You know what? Just get away from me. If you were this needy and keep asking me how I feel, I would have never dated you. And eventually we broke up like a couple weeks after the fact. But it turns out that entire time she was seeing her ex. And that's what my ex did. One of the worst things is when I needed her the most, she was already cheating on me with an ex. Which in hindsight, I'm very happy about because I would have never met my fiance that I love now, who is the greatest woman I've ever met in my life. And I'm completely blessed to have her. So the lesson here is even at your worst moments, that could be a good thing because it's leading you to something better.
Get ready with me as I tell you all about my toxic ex. So to provide some context, my ex-boyfriend and I started dating at the beginning of year 12. We were both 17, we were together for about a year and a half, and I broke up with him just before I turned 19. And oh, that boy put me through my paces, let me tell you. Before we actually started dating, we were just like messaging back and forth. This was about a week before we made things official. He's telling me about why he likes me. And then out of nowhere, he just sends a message being like, yeah, so you know, that was the moment that I fell in love with you. Like, what? We weren't even officially dating. This boy was not my boyfriend. But when you are 17 and you like a boy and they say something like that to you, of course you get all flattered. So, I mean, at first I was a little freaked out, but then I was like, he said he's in love with me. No ma'am, that is love bombing, because there was a lot of that in the first couple weeks and then it immediately dropped off. Like once he had me, he didn't have to try anymore. Now this boy was quite cruel with his words. He quite often did not think before he spoke, and the way he spoke to me is not a way that you should speak to someone that you claim to love. Now I've spoken about this before on here, but when I was in school, I had really bad acne, and around the age of 17 was kind of when it was at its worst. And it made me feel really, really insecure about myself. And I remember one day we're at his house and we're just watching a movie and I'm having a particularly rough day with my skin. We're sitting there watching the movie and I'm kind of just touching my forehead like this, which I know is like the absolute number one thing you should not do when you have acne, but when you are so insecure about it, you're kind of just very focused on, it's just always there, like it's always on your mind. So I'm just sitting there, I'm kind of touching it and I just kind of go, my acne makes me feel so ugly sometimes. And this boy has the audacity to say, yeah, well, it is ugly. For the remainder of the movie, I literally laid there and I kept my hand over my forehead because I didn't want him to see my acne. I was like, my boyfriend, this boy who I love and who claims to love me, thinks that my acne is ugly, so I must be ugly. One day, I remember it was a Sunday, and this is when I was working at Priceline. But I didn't get my driver's license until after I left high school, whereas he had his driver's license and he had his own car. And on this particular day, my parents were not able to pick me up from work. And on Sundays, he would play baseball. At the Priceline I worked at, Sunday shifts only went for 3 hours, and when you work any less than 4 hours, you do not get a tea break, which meant that I did not have the opportunity to check my phone until after my shift. So I'm at work, I finish my shift, I get my stuff, I go to check my phone and I just have this sinking feeling. I checked my phone and I had a text from him saying, oh, I'm not going to be able to pick you up from work. The team want me to play a second game that I'm going to hang back for. Immediately I panicked because my parents are out. They're not able to come and get me. He was my only way home. I was calling him. I was texting him. He wasn't picking up my calls. He wasn't responding to my texts. I could not get through to him. And I didn't know what to do. I honestly did not know how I was going to get home. I call my mum, absolutely sobbing, crying on the phone, saying, he's ditched me, I don't know how to get home. Mum and Dad were actually running late for their lunch that they had to be at. So what they did was that they turned around, came and picked me up and brought me home. I was crying in the car the entire way home. Mum was really trying to calm me down. After I'd calmed down a bit, I sent him a text about how that wasn't okay. He didn't really apologize. He just kind of like beat around the bush a little bit and was like, oh, well, what do you want me to do? Like, they wanted me for a second game. The next day he texted me and he was like, hey, do you want to go shopping? And this was his way of apologizing. Like, this was his way of saying sorry without actually saying sorry. And at this time, this is when I firstly started making TikToks. And I remember one of my TikToks got like 10,000 views or something. And I was so excited about it. So we're driving home from the shops and I pull up my phone and I say, oh my God, babe, one of my TikToks got 10,000 views. And then he turns around and he goes, you're making TikToks? And then I immediately start getting like really like feeling like I'm backed up into a corner. And I'm like, yeah, but you know, I'm not like dancing or anything. Like, I'm just making tutorials. Like, I'm just talking about makeup and stuff. And then he was like, babe, I love you, but I do not respect you. And I was really upset with that. So double whammy, ditches me at work and then insults me to my face like that within less than 48 hours. So anyway, I was really, really disheartened by that, and I went home that day and I had deleted all the TikToks that I made, and I couldn't bring myself to make another one because every time I tried, I just had him in the back of my mind telling me that he no longer respected me. Fast forward a few months, his parents came over to my house to have dinner with us, and the two of us were at a party, and my mum brought up that day and was like, oh, so what was this second game that he had to play? And then his dad goes, oh, there was no second game. Everyone wanted to have drinks at the pub after. And when my mum told me that, I was so upset because not only did this boy, again, ditch me at work, but he lied to me as to why he ditched me at work. And I'm pretty sure my mum told me this when I was still with him, and I did nothing about it. Anyway, that is all I have for you right now. I know you guys have been absolutely loving my story times, so please let me know if you want a part 2 of this because, oh, trust me, I have so many more stories. And before we wrap this up, I just want to say, if you have someone in your life who is treating you like this, girl, you deserve better. If I can get out of it and if I can better myself, so can you. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching. Bye.
Have you ever been in a toxic relationship? If so, what were some of the things that they did? I was sitting with him and I'll say a friend, and a guy had popped up on my phone, meaning like on my explore page.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, he's cute. Mind you, this is all said in front of him, okay?
Okay.
I'm like, oh my God, he's cute. And I passed it over to our friend and was like, you should go for him, because at the time she was newly single.
Mhm.
She was like, oh, I want to go on dates. I want this and I want that. So like, that's why my brain went there.
Mhm.
And the way he looked at me was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you just called this guy hot in front of my face. And I'm just thinking to myself, I've said it to you, so like, surely there's no shady, like, you know.
But it's not for you. It's
yeah, but like,
her.
but even like, I think for
it's
him,
admitting that you found someone else attractive.
yes, correct. I was at work maybe 2 days later, so keep this in mind. He was brewing on this for 2 days.
Brewing.
All right. Calls me out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Should I say the guy's real name? Or should
No,
I just like,
no.
All right, okay. Let's call this guy's name. No, I have to say the guy's real name because it actually, okay, whatever, fuck it. So he was like,
hello, today I'm going to do a chit chat, get ready with me, and tell you about my toxic relationship at the age of 16. Unfortunately, I feel like everybody has that story that's traumatized them for life, and fingers crossed, you will look for these signs from this person in everybody you are ever with and see them as red flags for what you should not accept in your next relationship. And this, for me, this story is that to a T. So when I was 16, I was in a 3-year relationship with somebody. First love, first everything, pretty much. And it was all really, really good, honestly, in the beginning. I felt like there was definitely a little bit of love bombing going on in the beginning. It all moved very, very quickly. But I didn't realise that at the time. Like, he used to lavish me with gifts, like the poetry of declaration of love was like so intense, and I was like, wow, I have won the boyfriend lottery here. Then the warning signs started to show. He started being kind of aggressive, calling me names, like kind of just pegging me down, and just my self-esteem started really plummeting. I was anxious all the time because I didn't want to upset him. Like, if I was going out with my friends or if I posted something that he didn't like, he would get like really angry and just speak to me just in the most disgusting way, the kind of way that I would never accept now. He would also look through my phone, and he was like really touchy about me telling my friends about things he'd done, because he didn't want everybody to know behind the scenes how horrible he basically was. I could seriously talk about all the separate incidents of what happened, but this is only a 3-minute video. But it took me a really long time to actually break up with him and cut it clean. Like, we would break up, get back together, break up, get back together, and it just felt like the most earth-shattering thing every time. But we'd always get back together, despite my friends always being like, what are you doing? You need to kick this man to the curb. If you've ever been in this situation, you will know that it doesn't matter what anybody else says to you. It has to be when you realise how awful the situation is. There will come a point where the penny just drops and you're like, oh my god, what the fuck am I doing? Granted, it took me a very long time to get to that point, and a lot of things in my life were ruined by it. I was very anxious. It ruined relationships with friends and family and a lot of different things, but I am so glad that I walked away. So that's how I learned that if it feels wrong, it probably is, and you should accept the love you deserve.